I'd put in a Newport 2 Plus. Fits my eye. I like it a little blocky square. I like roly-poly round, but on that line, the mallet may be too big, mallet being the square back. Blades to my eyes right now are looking a little bit like an old Van Hogen 1-iron. Little bladey. So this isn't a mallet and it's not a blade, it's kind of a soothing right in between. And I think that that product is going to take a lot of steal a lot of people from the Newport and put it in the Plus model because it's the perfect width of in between mallet and blade. It wasn't difficult, but the goal that was difficult was to get the top line, second area, and the third to be the right widths. Because I wanted the transition for it to look just like a Newport 2, which is gorgeous. How do I take that look and make it soothing and pull it into this? So the top line, the mid, and the secondary, and all the radiuses of blending those together and having it look just right. Because you would think making it wider is going to look more cumbersome, more slow, more lethargic. But if you do it right and you have all the radiuses in the right spot, it can look as sexy and cool as the Newport 2. Because the Newport 2 of today is the best Newport 2 that I've ever designed in my life. I didn't want to mess it up, I just wanted to make it better. So this Plus model was make it as good as this, which is great, but how do we make that cool factor into this and have it look soothing to the eye? And I think we've done that. Masi Kuramoto was a touring pro from Japan, a friend of mine on tour 30 years ago. He wanted a Newport, but he wanted more of a training aid, wanted half size. Because he was a friend, I agreed to it, and it was a pain to do because I had to re-engineer it and hit all the weights and all that, so I had to make it smaller but beef up areas, and I made 5 of those. And it was great looking, it was miniaturized, and it looked like a kid putter to me. I sent him 3 to Japan, and he was very gracious, great guy. But I kept 2. I finally gave 1 to another player, and I kept 1. It always reminded me of a kid's putter. At the time, my wife and I did not have any kids yet. And I went to bed one night and we were struggling to have kids. I mean, we were working our tails off. In fact, we created our own factory. She quit her job, I quit mine, and we had this dream. Working hard, stress through the roof, and so it was tough to have kids. Anyhow, woke up one night, well, I went to bed and put my arm under my pillow and felt something, and it was a metal object. Turned on the light, and it was one of these mini. It was a Classic 1 Mini, which is a Newport head Mini. I looked over at my wife, and she had tears in her eyes. She goes, "We're gonna have a baby." That's the way she told me, because we worked so hard to get there, and that was a baby putter, so that's how she told me we were gonna have our first child. So was it my favorite playable putter? Probably not. But the memories in that, coming from my wife with tears in her eyes, that's my favorite putter. As we talked about designing, I have to hit a price point. I can't use certain materials. And I'd rather not have handcuffs on me when I design. I'd rather dream and create things that excite the heck out of me, because I have found through the years, if it excites me, then it really, my friends and fans really love it. So I don't like to be handcuffed. So I would design things with sterling silver and carbon fiber and stuff that we could never afford to make. So my gallery in Encinitas, and I have the same gallery outside of Tokyo in Hamamatsu, when I make these things and I dream and create cool stuff, when I'm done with them, I put them in the gallery, and I'll create stuff that we can't afford to make. And what that actually does, I overspend, I overdesign, I overcreate. But what I do in there, I learn from those mistakes and those price points of what I can't do, and I'm better at when it comes to a production putter, of taking the best of these dreams and putting them into something that's more affordable. But I don't like to be handcuffed. Don't tell me how to design. Let me make my own mistakes, and I'll but the galleries were made to sell those things that excited the heck out of me. Zach Blair, putter nut. He wanted something face balanced. He wanted a Newport 2, and I wanted to wow this kid because he loves putters. So I said, okay, we can create it to be face balanced if we do this, 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 and let's put a flare to it and make it cool. So I took a Newport 2, and I got a rod of steel, and it's a hex steel, and it's what they make bolts out of, hex. And they drill the hole and thread it. Well, I got this material, so I cut it, turned down the neck so I could put down the shaft over it. So it looks, if you look on TV, it's a hex neck. You wouldn't, but if you look closely, you see it's a hex. I was going to spiral that hex and make it a twisty, but I didn't want it to be distracting. So I kept it a hex neck, and it is as sexy and cool. I hit weight, I hit feel, but spending that time with them, I love when you create something and their eyes light up. You know you kind of got them. So Zach Blair is a very good player. Makes me feel good. So that recently, that's a putter that stands out in my eyes that I loved. I loved to design it, but I loved that he loved and got what I was trying to create. And I'm a big fan of Bob Vokey. I've been in many design meetings with him for Titleist. And he reminded me, I learned from Bob because he would finish a design or a master to create Vokey wedges, but it's like tearing it from a mother's arms, you know. I can do it better. I want to fix this. I want to do the sole. So I would love to get those two because they're rival. They're both the greatest wedge makers of our time, both. And I think they both inspire each other. But I'd love to sit down and have a sit down with them and talk about, hey, what'd you like of his? What'd you like of his? And it would be wonderful.